Hello, I'm coming to you tonight because I am getting ready to head out to the advanced screening of Final Destination Bloodlines. And I'm really excited about this because I've been a fan of this franchise since the first installment with Devon Sawa, and I've been following it all along. And I don't know too much about it. I don't like to watch trailers if it's a movie that I really know that I want to go see. But I did read something briefly somewhere that, as many of you know, this is Tony Todd's, I think, last movie. I do know that he was in Stream and was, I think, planning to be in part 2, but this might be his last film. And I did read somewhere, it was kind of hinted that they honored him well in this movie. So I am so excited to see this movie. And, you know, for me, it's the advanced screening, which is the night before. It's going to open tomorrow night. So, yeah, this is going to be a spoiler review because when I am done with the movie tonight, I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you what I thought and talk about the movie. And it will have spoilers. So, spoiler alert, stick around for my review of Final Destination Bloodlines. So I'm back from seeing Final Destination Bloodlines. I have to say, I really liked it a lot. I think it was a solid addition to the franchise. I thought it was great. I really liked everything about this movie. The whole movie follows pretty much the same kind of formula that we're used to, which is fine with me because I'm like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. Don't like when franchises try to take a completely different approach because, like I said, I mean, what's worked works. So stick with it. And I'm glad that they do. So I guess I'll get into it. I thought the opening scene was pretty epic. It does something a little bit different. When it's over, you expect to see one thing and then you don't. And it kind of fast forward. I was a little let down because I'm like, okay, you're expecting to see what you normally see and then you don't. The great thing is once you're going through the story, it goes back after that premonition. You get to see what I wanted to see in the beginning. So it redeemed itself there. The premonition happens and the person then wakes up and is in the scene like, oh my God, this is going to happen. Well, that does happen, but it kind of happens later. They go back to it later, which I'm absolutely fine with as long as they went back to it. So that was great. Let's talk about the kills in this movie. I thought they were really great. There's a moderate amount of gore, I guess I would say. But here's the funny thing that I noticed right away. I've been watching a lot of movies with a lot of practical effects. So immediately I noticed the CGI effect look. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. It's great. There's a good amount of gore. I mean, they're very quick, though, I will say that. There's no long, drawn-out scenes. But of course, when you're living in a Terrifier world and we're used to that extreme gore and not only extreme, but practical gore effects, it's definitely different. And between being in that whole realm of the new Terrifier type gore and even me watching a lot of older movies where it's practical effects, that was the first thing I noticed was like, wow, that's so CGI. But it was fine. You know, I could live with it. It didn't make it bad. It was good and it was bloody. But I'll get into that a little bit more later. But I want to talk about right now Tony Todd's role. And just like in all of the other installments, Tony Todd's role was always like a cameo. It was the one scene where the characters went to him to get answers about death's design or the pattern or how to cheat death. So it was no different in this one, which I'm totally fine with. I read they did something really nice to kind of honor him. And just side note, I was actually fortunate enough to meet him on 2 different occasions. One was, I think it was back in 2013. It was at the Rock and Shock Convention in Worcester, Massachusetts. And I was actually there with a VIP all access pass. So I was able to kind of meet him backstage in the backstage area and have an actual conversation with him and take a picture with him. And then again, a couple of years ago at the Silver Scream Con in Boston, Massachusetts, actually Danvers, which is Boston. And I happened to see him outside in the parking lot of the hotel where the convention was. And because I'm not shy, I kind of, called out to him and I walked over, and he was standing there with his personal friends who had come to see him. And I had this conversation with him and his friends. And if I could say anything about Tony Todd, the couple of times I got to talk with him and meet him, is he was always so nice, so down to earth, very humble, very inviting, so nice to talk to, never made you feel like you were bothering him or he didn't want to interact with you. So yeah, it was a little rough to watch him in this film and see him looking very thin because he was clearly sick when he was filming this. And the scene being short as it was, I'm not sure if the way the scene ended was filmed this way with him naturally, like it was always part of the scene, or if they did it CGI after the fact to honor him in some way, because, spoiler alert, here it comes, the way his scene ends is he kind of starts talking about how life is short and you should treasure every moment and not take any moment for granted because you never know, like when your time is up. And the way he looks back at the camera and he says those lines, because you never know, it was definitely an awe moment for me watching that. And I agree with what I read. It was really nice. I loved that scene because it really just touched my heart, knowing that he passed away. And of course, at the end of the movie, it says in memory of Tony Todd, which you would expect. The movie is called Bloodlines, so it's basically centers around this family where the grandmother had this premonition. It opens with this epic scene. And now this girl, who's the granddaughter, is having nightmares about the grandmother's premonition. So when it gets into the story now about the granddaughter, she seeks out the grandmother to get answers about why she's having these nightmares, what happened to her. The whole rest of the family thinks the grandmother's crazy and hadn't talked to her for years. I will say, at this part of the movie where Stephanie, the granddaughter, goes to see the grandmother, it was very reminiscent of Jamie Lee Curtis's character of Laurie Strode in Halloween 2018, which is totally fine with me because I'm a big fan of the Halloween franchise, as some of you know. And I keep saying I'm going to do an episode about that, and I will soon. When she drives up to the grandmother's house, it's very much the same type of thing where the grandmother has had herself kind of bunkered down in this house that she has all set up to keep her safe, to keep her alive. Even like the fence, when the granddaughter drives up and having the intercom and being very careful about who she lets in. It was very, very much the same feel and the same vibe as what Laurie did in Halloween 2018. And I have to say, I'm not sure, and I haven't watched the rest of the franchise recently. Probably about a year or so ago, I did watch them all, and I can't quite remember if I remember any of the other installments having the deaths happen so quickly. Like this one, it seemed to, once it got to the part where it was moving into the grandmother's now kids, it seemed to me like the deaths were happening quickly, but maybe not. Maybe the first one, which was her son, that one seemed to happen pretty quickly. Then it got to the point where Stephanie was starting to have her own premonitions. And again, it followed the same pattern, which I loved. There were some surprises, just like the other movies where you thought someone might die and then they didn't die. And then, something happens out of the blue and it shocks you. I loved it. I loved the formula. It was the same for this installment. I really thought this movie was great. Some of the deaths were definitely, they always do different types of deaths in the franchise. And again, no different here. Really interesting, really fun. deaths. I'd say they're fun deaths, but they are. That's what us horror fans, we want to see the fun deaths. The original, the something different that we've never seen. And this franchise always does that, which I love. The movie just proceeds with the deaths and the order and the surprises. And I did love the way it moved along. I loved the way it ended. Even at the very end, the final kill I didn't expect it, to be honest. The ending was pretty cool. I won't give it away. I definitely think this is a solid addition to the Final Destination franchise. I enjoyed it. I don't think there's any negative thing that I could say about the movie. I think it's definitely worth a watch for sure. It's a solid installment. If I had to rate it, I'd say overall a good 8 out of 10 for sure. I didn't find anything wrong with it. I loved it. And I definitely think if you're a fan of this franchise, you need to see this movie. If you're not a fan of the franchise, you should see the movie, and you should go back and watch all of the rest of them, because I love them all. So yeah, that's my review on Final Destination Bloodlines. So go out there and watch it.